What can we do to stop the spread of the disease of socialism within Venezuela? What are the best arguments against socialism when talking to uncultured people and or young children? That is from Gabriel, who lives in Venezuela. Welcome to the show.
All right, thanks.
Gabriel, before we get into the theory, how's the practice going? What's going on in Venezuela these days? I mean,
a lot.
more than the horrors that we read about online.
A lot, and the media, the international media, isn't covering anything at all about what truly happens in Venezuela. The other day, about the last week actually, before I was gonna do the show, I couldn't get in. Long story. Maduro was um, the National Assembly said that he was no longer the president, and the National Assembly should have the power to do that, to say that Maduro is not president, because he abandoned the charge. Because normally every 5th of January, the president goes to the National Assembly and tells the people what he did all year. And he didn't do it, and he was absent for 3 more days because he was in, I don't know, a Central American country where another leftist president was being elected. Uh, so basically, Maduro was not president, but he doesn't give a fuck, and we're basically living in a dictatorship. Media doesn't cover that either. National media doesn't cover that either. Just because they are afraid, and they should. Uh, Thanks to Chavez, he centralized all power. They can get away with whatever they want, whenever they want. Uh, and I don't know. You should ask me about specific stuff, because if you ask me in general, I'm just gonna keep talking, talking, talking.
I got no problem with that. I know that even getting food is crazy. I've heard people spending 36 hours driving to Brazil to get groceries. Parents having to give up their kids because they can't afford to feed them. I mean, just some pretty mental stuff.
Yeah, I mean, in my 19 years of life, I've been to good parts of Venezuela. I've been with rich people, I've been with poor people. But in my 19 years of life, I've never seen a kid eating straight from the carpet. And I saw that like a month ago. It's uh, there are streets here, like the sign streets for street vendors that sell food. And when you go to eat, the kids will gather up to your table and ask you for food. Uh,
Right.
it's really hard, man. I was I wanted to break my question in like 3 parts. I also wanted to ask a personal question. Is what can I do to cope with living in Venezuela with depression? Because it's getting to the point where I feel defeated. I got paid today. I made $2 in a week, $2 US, and food doesn't cost $20. It costs a lot. People have to do lines of over what can I say, 80, 18 hours or 20 hours. Uh, People have died. Old people have to do lines for food.
And I was reading how there's a BBC reporter who was shooting video and uploading the video to YouTube of Venezuelans waiting in line to get groceries, and the Venezuelan government threatened to throw him in jail if he didn't delete the video. Because, it
Yes.
doesn't matter that people are in line. What matters is that people can see that people are in line. This is completely mad.
Yeah, it's for example, what I'm doing here, talking to you about Venezuela and what's happening. Yeah, I could get in Sabine is like or NSA or CIA, and
Yeah.
I could get, if just for doing this call, even if you don't publish it, I could get in the list of cyber terrorism, and I could go to jail just because of for what I'm saying. That's how far it goes. In 2014, when when the biggest protest of all Venezuela was happening, everybody was on the street. The media couldn't cover anything. They shut down 2 channels. When somebody published something on Twitter, which was the main source of news or information, they got communication from the Sabine telling them to delete the information or they would go to jail. Most people went to jail. They're still in jail. And
Well, you get some food in jail, right?
nope.
No food in jail.
Funny story. Well, yes, you get food, but there is not even enough food for themselves, for the government to run prisons. And there are in Venezuela there are there are a few prisons for a lot of criminals, and they, for example, Sabanetica is designed for no more than 4,000 inmates, and they have like 25,000.
Wow. So I guess everyone's in a kind of inadvertent hunger strike these days, right?
Yeah, it's hard living here. Actually, a lot of people.
Well, it's for a lot of people. It's becoming downright impossible.
Yes,
and you're trapped, right? How the hell do you get out? I mean, all modern countries are like soft or hard jails, right? I mean, you just kind of, oh, I don't like this country. You're going to move to some new country. But we're all, but at least in most places, they're jails with enough to eat. Soft
Yes.
jails with enough to eat.
But getting out of Venezuela, if you don't have any money, it's impossible. For me, for example, the government controls all U.S. dollars. You can get them in a black market and people who sell them, but from the government, you are not getting shit. Okay, the government isn't giving you shit unless you're with them, unless your uncle is a National Guard or something, and you, for example, if you want to get out, you have to sell your house, your car, a kidney, whatever you need to get out, and it's not even sure. You're not even sure if other countries are gonna accept you because there has been mass immigration from Venezuelans to other countries due to this crisis, and not a lot of countries are taking that well. For example, in Panama and Colombia, there are a lot of protests, or not protests, like marches against Venezuelans because they're overflowing these countries.
Sure. Well, I think if I remember rightly, Barack Obama, thankfully ex-president, shut down the immigration from Venezuela because, I mean, there would have been a flood, right? A complete flood.
Yes, and it's partially because Venezuelans are pretty stupid. And my question was, what can we do to stop the spread of the disease of socialism, and what arguments we can use against uncultured people and our young children, because people in Venezuela have no culture. They don't know history. They don't like reading. They don't like learning. And I'm not very smart. I'm average. Above
Seem to be
average.
doing fine to me.
But people here don't go further. They just read the first title. They read and they, oh, nice, thanks, information, and they don't go deeper than that. They are pretty shallow and stupid, and I think that's what the crisis is all about stupidity. And if people knew what socialism was, this wouldn't have happened.
Well, I think people do know what socialism is. I mean, I'm not saying like the average
No.
Venezuelan peasant, but in the West, I mean, there's a reason why this isn't being reported much on in America and in other places. The British have been reporting about it a little bit, but there's a reason why.
Because they want to establish a leftist government.
Well, yeah, because it's a bunch of lefties in the media, and the lefties in the media don't want to talk about Venezuela because it's another goddamn example of the horrors of socialism. So they don't want to talk about it, especially the leftist media. We're like crazy keen on Chavez, right?
Yes.
I mean, Naomi Klein wrote this whole book called "What the Shock Doctrine" about how terrible it was to establish capitalism in Chile, and oh, what a wonderful thing. I mean, it's they were really licking the inner thigh of Chavez, top down, back to front. They don't care about the poor. I mean, they don't care. If you cared about the poor, you would be all over this. And of course, what they do say, well, see, they're still trying to blame capitalism for all this shit, right? Oh, you said the problem is, you see, the oil price declined. Well, guess what? Oil prices declined all over the world. Not all the world is turning into Venezuela.
exactly.
Oil prices are declining in Alberta, but people in Alberta aren't selling their children for food.
Exactly. And
So,
funny thing,
go ahead.
when in 2008, when the 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 oil prices were $100 a pop, uh, I didn't see Venezuela flowing or just glowing with riches. No, I just saw the same people getting richer and richer. And
Sure.
I have an uncle that's a National Guard, but I don't get nothing from him because I don't usually talk to him, just on New Year's and whatever.
Yeah.
And uh, it's so hard talking about this because you don't know who can get this information. Uh,
Well, who might turn you in, right? Who might get you in trouble?
yes, obviously.
Spies are everywhere. That's how they keep us apart, right?
No, but actually, the Sabine is actually spying because one of my uncles was a Sabine officer, and he told me when like a year after he was working with them, he told me, Gabriel, be careful with what you post. And I was like, oh, he's just giving me the top-down talk about I shouldn't post private stuff on the internet. And then he told me, Gabriel, they took down a house with two kids of 16 years old, and they put him in jail because they said they wanted to take down the government. And I didn't believe him at first. I thought he was bad shit. But then I saw the kids, and he showed me the pictures, and I was like, oh shit, it's for real. Uh, the Sabine spies on everybody. They know what everybody does. They know everything. But still, murders go unsolved. 98% of murders in Venezuela go unsolved. Last year, we had 28,000 murders. And, well, that's what the beauty of socialism and Chavismo brought to Venezuela. And at least 24 newborn kids die every day in hospital because there's nothing in hospitals really. There's nothing in Venezuela left actually. This is a shithole.
Right. I mean, I know you're a young man, but obviously you're pretty well read. When do you think this all started to shift, to change? It wasn't always like this, at least not the whole way along, right?
No, I think it went south in 2007 when Chavez won his third or second mandate against
Yep.
Manuel Rosales. That's when I saw the whole Chavismo thing and the socialism and revolutionary and Bolivar and stuff. Or I call it stuff because to call it ideology is just plain disgusting to me. Uh, uh, that's when I saw that it was being like spot on. Like Chavez painted everything red. Red was everything. Um he started expropriating a lot of companies, at least 3,000 in in a year. Uh, Most of the companies were sold to the Chinese people because we basically are now China's little patio, or what do you call it, like backyard. Um, we I don't even know how much debt there is in Venezuela because how much these guys uh, fucked it. They they took so much money from the Chinese and Russians that I don't. There's not even records, like legal records from the government that you can get and see how much debt there is. And yes, I think it's around 2007 when Chavez went completely batshit socialism crazy and started expropriating things like crazy. Those companies are not producing anything. I live like I don't know, like a kilometer away from like 10 companies that produce rice, oil, like cooking oil, and sugar, and there's no rice. So
Right.
what they do is, for example, my state is in charge of about 70% of the food in Venezuela. They gather it up and they take it to Caracas because Caracas is the capital, and while you keep the people happy in the capital, nothing happens, and that's what's
Well,
basically happening.
they wanted to get the army to be in charge of collecting and distributing the food,
Yes,
and of course the usual thing happened that the army stole the food and now sells it on the black market. I mean, the usual
yes.
nightmare that happens with these kinds of situations.
Um, for example, my stepfather, which is also my employer, he is the one that buys food for us. He buys it from a guy that buys it from a National Guard,
Right.
and the National Guard gets it directly from the government.
Right.
So it's
And the farmers are hoarding, and the farmers don't want to sell because the money's fairly worthless, and the most
yes,
valuable thing they have is food, and so they're hoarding it, which means the government has to go in and try and find it, playing cat and mouse. Like, and I'm sorry to sound like it's boring for those who've studied history. It's the same damn story over and over again, though the human suffering
exactly.
is new for everyone, right?
Yes, but actually the farmers are not hoarding because there is nothing, there's no seeds to produce. And the little
Oh, even the
farm,
farmers don't have food.
no, even the farmers don't have food. And the little farmers that have food, they sell it as animal food, like cat and dog food, because it's
Oh.
more worth. Because when you, for example, you have a cow, that cow gives you like 100 kilos of meat. Okay,
Mm.
you can either give those 100 kilos of meat to the government. They're gonna give you shit for that, and you can take that shit and die because that's basically it. Or you can turn it into cat food or dog food and sell it to dog owners who
Huh.
want to keep their dog's life, and it's way more worth that.
So
Well,
you're better off selling, like, and it's I mean, to take a sort of silly example up here in Canada, you can get an MRI for a dog way faster than you can get an MRI for a human being, right?
hmm exactly.
Because
Well,
anyway, for obvious
speaking
reasons.
of Canada, I heard that like a year ago, I have a cousin that lives there, and her mom got cancer, and they told me they had to flee to the United States because the healthcare in Canada is not so good, as I heard, and
Oh yeah, no, it's. I mean, I know that story very well, so I sympathize and I understand.
yeah, and they had to flee to the United States, and well, in Venezuela, her mom would have died because that's what happens with people with cancer here. They just die. There's no
Sure,
way
and
of
horribly painfully, right?
yes, because there's no way to get medic.
Or even painkillers.
No, nothing. You can. I mean, yes, you might be lucky and find an aspirin for your headache, but that's it. That's about it. I had diarrhea for like 2 months. I lost like 10 kilos because I couldn't find this specific pill that the doctor gave me. Uh, that's another thing. Thanks to the free healthcare that Chavez brought with the Cubans, uh, because Cuba is the most advanced country in terms of medicine because they are so doing so well. Uh, Sarcasm. Uh, One Cuban doctor almost killed my grandfather actually because he gave him the wrong pills for his tension and for his blood pressure, and that's kind of nice. Uh, what else? My friend got in a bike accident like 3 months ago. He went to a free healthcare like central thingy where there are a lot of Cubans there, and they told him, "Oh no, you're fine." They didn't even do a scan on him. No, he thought, "Oh well, Superman, Cuban Superman just saw my arm and told me I was fine."
X-ray vision. Right.
Yeah. So he went 2 days after to a clinic, to a private clinic, and they did X-ray him, and he had a broken arm. And the doctor told him, if you have gotten here about 8 hours later, we would have to cut your arm. And
They'd have to do what?
they would have had to cut his arm.
Amputate his arm completely.
Yes, because
Jesus.
the 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 bone was broken and it got infected, and it's
God, yeah. Once you get gangrene, out come the chainsaws, right?
yes. So
No, and I get these messages too. And I got a message from a guy in England saying, "Oh yeah, my aunt came to visit. She came off the plane from England, and she was gray and looked exhausted. And she said, 'Oh no, the doctor says I'm just stressed.'" Turns out she had some basic deficiency. They ran a couple of tests, and in a couple of weeks she's back up and fine, full of energy and health and vigor. And oh no, it's it's terrible. It's terrible, terrible, terrible stuff. But of course, it takes a long time for things to get this bad. And once they do, and I don't, I'm really mindful of your question, right? I mean, how the hell do you talk about this stuff with people in a way that can mean something, that can help?
Exactly.
And I mean, the people that you talk to, I mean, I'm going to assume that they recognize that things are going in the crapper, right? That they need something needs to change right now. But what do they think needs to change? Is it like, oh, throw the bums out, let's get some new bums? Is it that kind of stuff, or
no?
What do they think?
People here think that the opposition, or what people call opposition, they are gonna change everything. They're gonna people here in Latin America have this messiah ideology that they're gonna struggle, but one day there's gonna be a guy that's gonna solve all their problems, and they're gonna hold hands with them, and they're gonna sing the national anthem and be happy. So they think that the opposition, which are a bunch of socialist populist fucks as the government, they're gonna fix everything, and they're not going to. They are basically the same shit but softer.
Yeah.
I just feel impotent because I could speak in front of a large crowd and they wouldn't give a fuck, because that's how stupid people are in Venezuela. If they don't see,
you've got, I mean, it's an average IQ of what, 86, something
think,
like that.
I'm gonna have to dip it lower than that.
Yeah, that's probably a while back when there was still smarter people left in the country, right? I mean, when the smart people get out of the country, then you get just a little bit of a dip on the average, and that's much worse than the mathematics suggest. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. You can interrupt. What was I saying? Oh yes. Well, people here think that obviously we have to get rid of socialism, but they don't know what the opposition brings to the table. They don't know that the opposition is socialist, and they are the same populist fucks that these people, they're doing the same shit. Okay, so populists have this vicious cycle of having three enemies and telling the people that they're gonna fix their problems and they're gonna hold hands, or they're gonna be their friends, and then making those people way stupid and way more stupid, and keep doing that, and that's how they stay in power. And they have been doing that since 1958, when Marcos Perez Jimenez, who was a dictator, but that dictator brought to Venezuela the best age of Venezuela. I mean, the Bolivar was at the same price of a dollar, of an US dollar. Okay, so that's a lot. He started all the roads in Venezuela, and when these fucks, these Democrats, well, I also think the democracy fucked the West for when these Democrats came to Venezuela in 1958 and they established what is today the government of Venezuela. Uh, they said, "Oh no, we can't finish this. This is too much." He was crazy, but he wasn't. It was actually pretty simple, just building roads. I mean, and roads today are fucking a mess. It's like walking on the moon. There are fucking craters.
Right. Right. Sorry, 84, not 86. That didn't just actually go down while we were talking, although maybe. But 84 is the average IQ in Venezuela. And of course you get one person, one vote. The fewer intelligent people there are in society, the worse democracy is.
Exactly.
I mean, if everyone's got an average IQ of 100, then it's not so bad. It's bad, but not that bad. Or rather, it's a slow motion crash. But when the IQ is lower for the vast majority of the population and you get a democracy, then the dead weight of idiots just completely crushes the life out of the innovative, the intelligent, the ambitious, the creative, the intelligent, right?
Exactly. And
it's like watching the tide come in on a beach fire, except I guess the rock, the burning sticks can get up and run, I suppose. But and it's a vicious circle, right? Because when the tide of unintelligence begins to sweep over the intelligent, they see it coming, they get the hell out.
Exactly.
And then your IQ goes down, which means worse policies get enacted, which drives even the mediocre intelligent people out. And then, well, right? And then they have to put all these controls to prevent people from getting out. But that doesn't make them nationalistic, right? The few remaining intelligent people, they're just apathetic and trapped, right?
Yeah, they're just stupid. They just don't know that they're not free. They don't have higher aspirations of life than just getting up, eating, shitting, going to sleep. That's basically what most people in Venezuela think life is.
And there is it's sort of this, I don't know if it's a Latin America or a Central American thing or whatever, but it's something I've noticed in my travels in the region, is that there is this kind of claustrophobic chumminess. My friend, we'll be friends, we'll be pals. And, hey, where's my wallet? There's this kind of, I've noticed this a little bit in the Middle East as well. They're your friend. They're just instant friends. Everyone's friendly. And then bad things happen.
Yeah,
after
that happens a lot with foreigners, because they get, for example, if you were to come to Venezuela and they saw you're pretty white, you look white. You look like a white dad,
Wait, I smell freckle. I must befriend the freckle bearer. Sorry, this is not funny. Go
on. You look white. They see that you came from the flight of Canada, and they see, oh, here comes a guy from Canada. He must have US dollars because he's going on a vacation.
Well, to the women too, it's like, hey, if I can bag this guy, I get a visa out of here, right?
Exactly.
Look, my sexual market value has been driven up by socialism.
That's the only good thing you're gonna get out of socialism.
Yeah.
For example, an Egyptian, a guy from Egypt, got killed outside the airport because somebody thought he had US dollars in his bag. He didn't have shit. So I wouldn't recommend Venezuela in your traveling list anytime soon. Give it at least 3 generations.
Right. What's the online world for Venezuela? I mean, do people have these cell phones? Do they get online? Is it still fairly rare?
Okay. We have the shittest internet in the world. We have the second slowest, actually. The first is like North Korea or some shit. But we have the
You're after North Korea?
Yeah, we're after North Korea.
Tell me, does the government run the internet access?
Yes.
There we go. All right.
Okay, so they're the only ISP for the other ISPs. Do you get me? Because there's CanTV that's owned by the government, right? But there's also Intercable, which is a private company. So Intercable has to have like a bridge of internet. I'm talking really stupid. I don't know why. Like a bridge of internet, right? So, but only CanTV has it, and cantonese from the government, and only they can allow other people to have internet. So Intercable is a private company. They offer you internet, but it's the same shit. Um,
Right.
I take days to download something. Uh, I have the fastest plan, in it's 10 megabits. That's all. 10 megabits in 2017. 10
And
megabits
do you even get the 10? I mean, that's advertised, right?
at
But
night.
what do you actually?
At night, I
Oh, at
get
night you do, right?
at night sometimes, but in the day I get barely like one or two.
Right. Well, the question, I guess, is, as you sort of pointed out, how the hell do you talk to people about all of this, right?
Yes.
People with like an IQ of 84, they're like 10 or 11 or 12-year-olds, sort of, right? I mean, there's a reason why less intelligent people are so susceptible to father figures, because in many ways they remain children,
Exactly.
right? And how do you convince children to go it alone, that they should be free, that, you know, I mean, it's a tough
Scary
call.
for them. It's scary.
It is, yeah, it is. They are very willing to flock to protectors, which is why people who want to rule humanity love importing lower IQ cultures into. I mean, they'll constantly bleat out and beg like hungry birds for food from the state, for someone to come along and organize their lives. How do you convince people of the value of freedom? It is a big question. Because you get this entitlement mentality, like the government owes you, and if and if the government doesn't provide for you, see, for me, if the government doesn't provide for me, I don't like the government that much anymore. You know, if I've been paying God knows how much into a healthcare system, and then that healthcare system is not saving me and is in fact endangering my life, my thought is not, well, we just need to have a slightly better healthcare system. My thought is, well, this sucks. And trying to figure out why it sucks and whether anything can be done. But that's, of course, a more intelligent response. The idea that you swap out the leaders and you gain paradise, that, of course, is an immature conceptualization of the challenges that a country faces, right?
I think that Venezuela needs needs a dictatorship, but a good dictatorship. Keep it take with a grain of salt. I think what would fit this country perfectly would be a nationalist, libertarian. I think that would bring the shine into Venezuela a little bit, just a little bit.
Right. Well, I mean, the question is, I mean, and this sort of goes back to democracy as a whole. When democracy was first introduced, the idea of it being unlimited for everyone, like everyone gets a vote and there's no intelligence test or anything like that. I mean, that was pretty incomprehensible for people as a whole. And I remember Greece or Athens, the birthplace of democracy, with the vast majority of people in many areas of those, they were slaves and couldn't vote. Women couldn't vote. And in America, you had to be a property owner. And this is the way it worked in England, too. You had to be a property owner, like sort of lower middle class, right? The basic idea was you have to have some property to give a shit about property. Right?
Exactly.
If you don't have any property, why would you care about property rights? If you're broke, if you're poor, if you're destitute, you don't care about property rights. I mean, trying to sell property rights to poor people is like trying to sell birth control to an 80-year-old man. Well, 80-year-old woman, even more appropriate, because an 80-year-old man can still get someone pregnant, although Lord knows what kind of reptile comes out of that cave. So this idea that you had to have some property to care about property rights, that you could not have a stable society with a government and voting if there were no restrictions on who could vote. This argument was made repeatedly for thousands of years. You say, well, if you give poor people the vote, well, all they do is they vote to take away the property of rich people, and everyone becomes poor. And lo and behold, we see it unfolding over and over and over again, all over the. Now, I don't blame the Venezuelans for this. I certainly am not going to blame people with an IQ of 84. Right? I mean, that to me is not. It's not reasonable to do that. I mean, they're not even children. See, children are appropriate. Like a 12-year-old is a 12-year-old. It's appropriate for them to have that mentality. But if you're an adult with the intellect of a 12-year-old, it's strange, right? A 12-year-old, can't vote. A 12-year-old can't sign contracts. A 12-year-old usually can't get married and have children. But when you're an adult with the mentality of a 10 or 11 or 12 or 13-year-old, things are an entirely different matter and very, very risky. So, I thought long and hard about this question, which means that if I screw it up, it's on me. So, I think the first thing to recognize is to find where's the fault? Where does the fault lie in all of this? And the fault lies in the libertarians, because the leftists have been working and fighting, and leftism, they never sleep. They keep working. They'll push you until you're just about to rebel and revolt, and then they'll ease back a bit until you say, okay, well, I guess they're done. And then when your guard is down, they'll push more legislation, push more control over property through all of this stuff. The leftists are like manic, compulsive. It's like watching somebody with OCD, hand-washing OCD, shake hands with a mud monster. they just constantly trying to expand their power base. And I, for many years, although I don't bother anymore because I've got it loud and clear from the libertarians that they sure like working their mouth holes to make sounds, but actually doing things that change things and matter. No. No. So the leftists have been infiltrating the mindset of the world, of the media, of the universities, of governments, of course, of movie studios and novel writing houses and publishers of every kind and the internet and blah-de-blah, right? So for me, what has been the problem? Well, the problem has been that the left is just more serious. The left is just more dedicated. The left is just more willing to sacrifice for their own ideals. I recognize that the left are very good at entertaining people, very good at making jokes, very good at, telling stories, very good at, a lot of times, very good at public speaking, and they appeal to the sentiments that we all start with, right? This is one of the reasons why leftism is so seductive for people, because we all start that way. I mean, if we all spent 18 years of our life as pure capitalists, then when people came to talk to us about capitalism, we'd be like, well, yeah, I get that. I was born in the free market. I was suckled by the free market, raised by the free market. The free market washed my binky and kept my teddy bear clean. But of course, we all start dependent on authority, which controls us and gives us stuff. I mean, it's childhood for everyone. For everyone. Now, speaking personally, I have taken it as a very grave and deep and powerful responsibility to fight for freedom. I have sacrificed a lot. I have taken some body blows. I have been insulted and slandered a lot. And I do it because I care about freedom. I care about people. I care about the poor in Venezuela. And I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. I'm willing to put my, pretty lucrative business career, just set fire to it and throw it aside. It's not like I didn't have 25 years invested in it or anything, but hey, it's okay because I can get a camera. And I will make silly jokes. I will pull funny faces. I will sing songs. I will engage. I will rage. I will King Lear-like tear my heart out and hold it up for a beating world to see and smile and scorn and snarl at. Because that's what it takes. Because that's what it takes. And the left do it every day. Single-minded, monomaniacal pursuit of falsehood, of manipulation, of propaganda, of sophistry, of attacks. They are willing to attack people and try to get them fired, try and get them in trouble. They're willing to do all of that because they really give a shit about their belief system. They're willing to go full on, balls to the wall to get what they want. No quarter asked, no quarter given. Well, no, they do ask for quarter because they are terrible crime bullies, so the moment you turn their tactics on them, they get really sad. But they're like a no-compromise guided missile of bottomless, addictive power-seeking. And that's what the fuck we're up against. And what do we have? Well, we don't have the universities. We don't have the mainstream media. We don't have Hollywood. We don't have the theater world. We don't have the art world. We don't have the publishing world. The list goes on and on. And so, what do? Well, what we should do is get really, really, really good at what we do. I'm really good at this. That doesn't come about by accident. That comes about by taking risks. That comes about by committing and knowing the stakes of what the hell I'm doing. And libertarians as a whole aren't willing to put their balls to the wall, to go the extra mile, to go the extra light year, if that's what's necessary, to get the message across. You know, many years ago, I was criticized because I said, look, if you're a libertarian, having status in your life is really hypocritical because status wants you thrown in jail for being free, for following your conscience. You know, some people got it, but a lot of people were like, oh, that's terrible. You can't possibly do. You can't possibly think that we should take our values and actually live them as if they're true and live them consistently. I can't even. They just turned full social justice warrior, hysterical, paranoid attack mode because I said this shit is important. It matters. And if you understand this stuff, you owe it to the future. You owe it to the young. You owe it to the idiots. You owe it to everyone in Venezuela. And all around the world, you owe it to live this shit like it matters. Because it does. Because right now in Venezuela, all those who said, well, you know, I don't want to put my personal relationships to the test of my values because that would be crazy. Well, families are separating because people are dying. Families are separating because people are fleeing. And families are separating because people are being murdered. And families are separating because the mothers have to sell their children or give them away. The family breaks anyway. The family breaks anyway. And if you put things on the line and you live your fucking values like they really, really matter, which is what the left does. The left says, oh, you got a boyfriend who's a Trump supporter? Dump him. You got friends who are Trump supporters? Ditch them. They get it. They get it. You know, if you want to win, do what the people who are winning have done. It's not that complicated. They've won. And they've won, and they've won, and they've won for like 200 fucking years. They have won. I take, by far, the biggest intellectual, moral, and politically correct risks in the movement, in my humble opinion. Now, other people do other things, and it's not a better or worse thing. Everybody has what they're good at. The great Lauren Southern, whose book is #1 in Canadian nonfiction. Good for her. Good on ya, mate. Lauren Southern gets shoved. Gavin McInnes gets into a fist fight. Mike Cernovich gets pepper sprayed. Mike Cernovich wants to throw a party. The deplorable. Hey, everybody. We've got a great victory in our hands. Let's get together. Let's have some drinks. Let's have some dancing. Let's hear some great speeches. Let's have some fun. And you know what the assholes on the left do? They're going to drop acid into the HVAC system. Allegedly. Well, it's on video. They're going to throat punch people. And they get it. Now, please understand, I'm not advocating any violence. Nothing I've ever done could even remotely be construed as advocating violence. I advocate integrity, which is even harder than violence. Why is Venezuela dying? Because society looks at people who want to change anything fundamental as extremely dangerous and unstable elements. And you know what? They're right. They should. They should look at those people. And most people in this world have zero capacity to evaluate moral or philosophical or political ideologies or propositions or hypotheses or theories or arguments of any kind. Of any kind. Now, given that society doesn't like change, change is very risky. Oh, yes, you might get the American Revolution, but you also might get the French Revolution, where you end up guillotining nuns. You also might end up with the Russian Revolution, which cost the lives of tens upon tens of millions of people. So when you come along and you say, things need to change right down there in the foundations, right down there in the fundamentals, things need to change. People look at you like, whoa, whoa, Nelly, slow down there, big fella. How do I know you believe in what you say? Maybe this is all just bullshit. You know, maybe it's like the guy who goes to the car, he works for Ford, and he says, Fords are the best cars ever made. Found on road dead. Nonsense. Fords are the best. Oh, wait. Oh, I got another job offer from Mercedes. Let me start that again. Mercedes are the best cars ever, right? How do you know? How do you know? You can't judge the ideology because you're an idiot and you're untaught. You can't judge the arguments because you're an idiot and you're untaught. So what do? The only thing you can judge is the commitment of the adherents. Did Christianity become the official religion of the Roman Empire because Christ had such compelling arguments? Of course not. Why did Christianity become the official religion of the Roman Empire? Because the Christians were willing to be eaten by lions. They were all in. They were all fucking in. And again, I'm not talking about initiating the use of force. Mike Cernovich fights like a tiger. Roger Stone says that he was poisoned. The CDC confirms it. Mike Cernovich is a gladiator, using the whips and chains of everything legal and peaceful in his arsenal to get things done, to expose people, to call people out. They're all in because they get it. They understand. Mike Cernovich says, the left want us in camps. And not the Bill Murray kind either. He gets it. He's all in. I admire and respect these people more than I can possibly say. I take my risks, they take their risks, but we are all in. The fight is won not by truth. The fight is not won by evidence. The fight is not won by reasoning. The fight is not won by eloquence alone. The fight is won by one thing and one thing only. The fight is won by commitment. By commitment. Leftists are committed. 700 people were arrested in Washington today, Inauguration Day, for Donald J. Trump. They're all in. And they're not protesters, they're just vandals. I mean, this is not... I watched some videos, and they're chanting. And they're so bad at chanting, I don't even know what they're saying. Fuck this, fuck that, I don't even know what they're saying. Some stupid, rhythmic, simian chant. That's on one side. On the other side was the jaw-droppingly beautiful harmonies of a series of choirs. And choirs of angels sing thee to thy rest. That's what you have on one side. On the other side, they sound like angels, these choirs. The video I saw today was of one of these ridiculous bandanaed protesters, thugs, smashing a newspaper dispenser, I think it was. I don't know what the hell it was. He had a rock and he was smashing it with a rock. Yes, my friends, that's where they're at. Screaming mindless, empty slogans and hitting things with rocks. Hitting things with rocks and yelling. Yeah, yeah. Just like John Locke would.
Yeah, I guess
just like Aristotle would.
I guess I want to take the fight to the printed press now.
Probably. How should we disperse them, sir? Should we use water cannons? No! Hold up job applications and library cards. They will scatter like cockroaches. Sorry, that's an insult too. Cockroaches, which I hear are quite clean. Look at Milo. Milo Yiannopoulos. Golden-haired hero of the right. Has to travel with private professional security. Regularly faces untold numbers of threats and dangers and culture. How many death threats does she receive? She laughs it off. The left needs to be exposed for what they are, which is those with a tendency to criminality in general. This is according to a researcher I recently had on the show. And if you comply with violence, you are hiding the violence. So the fault is not those on the left. Those on the left have their ideology. Hell, maybe it's their biology. If the RK stuff is to be believed, the stuff that I talked about in Gene Wars, just a biological organism of dullness and resentment and rage and criminal tendencies. It's just that gene set trying to reproduce. And how do you stop it? Well, you stop it with integrity. You stop it by making it more painful to be a leftist than to not be a leftist. My solution is ostracism. My solution is ostracism. I talked to a caller the other day. Met a woman. She was so pretty. So pretty. So pretty, he ended up fucking her and his integrity at the same time. And she was a relativist and a socialist and called him racist and kind of a Wiccan. Anyway, everything against his values. And he's like, yeah, but she's pretty. Well, okay. Then Venezuela is your fucking fault. Literally your fucking fault. Right? Don't be friends with these people. Expose them for who they are. Legally, peacefully, but consistently. And unapologetically. And as Nietzsche says, if you stand up against a tribe, there may be times where you're scared, maybe times where you're anxious, but no price is too high to pay for the privilege of owning yourself, self-ownership. Our time, our attention, our language, our approval in particular, these are sacred coins. And I would no more spend my precious life and time on friendship with a socialist than I would trade my daughter for an empty fucking box. So it's not the fault of the leftists. Hey, leftists gonna left, right? That's what they do. They go for power. And they manipulate and they aggress and they fight. Only the left knows that it's a fight, until recently. This is why I did the video on Barack Obama and said, the more things change, the more they stay the same, until now. Because now, I don't even know if I want to call them the right. The people who like freedom, I think they're finally, after I've been saying it for 10 years, I think they finally got it that it's a fight. I think they finally got it that the left is all in. And whoever's all in wins. Whoever's all in wins. They don't stop. In general, the left doesn't stop until you're out of commission. However you want to interpret that is up to you. But I think it's a fight. Either for life itself or for everything that makes life worth living. Put me in Venezuela. I don't want to get out of bed in the morning. There are fates much worse than death. So the fault is the people who have the values, who know the stakes, but who won't commit, who won't live like it matters. They won't live their values like they matter, like they're essential. Libertarians, in general, kind of like stamp collectors. Now, stamp collectors, I was one when I was younger, they get very passionate. Oh, look, a Victorian penny! Stamp! Oh! Very passionate about it. But it's not like a moral thing. It's not like a stamp collector won't be friends with someone who doesn't collect stamps. Now, you know, it's sort of like if you're a stamp collector and you're friends with someone and they also are a stamp collector, great, you have more to talk about as far as stamp collecting goes. But if they're not a stamp collector, yeah, that's all right. You know, to each their own. Oh, all this wonderful individualism. Isn't it tasty and self-defeating? Or like when I was a kid, I was into model railroads. I slept under a model railroad. I had a pretty small room, pretty small place when I was growing up. And I slept under a model train set that I lovingly crafted. The papier-mâché mountains, the chicken wire, the painting, even the eyeballs I painted of the people in the town. Now, some of my friends weren't into model trains. Didn't mean we couldn't be friends, right? Just, they were into their thing. Played Dungeons and Dragons. Didn't mean I couldn't be friends with people who didn't play Dungeons and Dragons. Libertarians treat the most essential moral principles, that which makes life worth living, the principles which sustain the lives of billions of people around the world. It was the freedom that caused the explosion in growth in the Venezuelan population. Freedom did that. The free market, trade, prices, voluntarism. The degree to which that extended is the degree to which people had more children, and that is what is keeping people alive. Freedom is life support for the vast majority of human beings in this world. As freedom dies, people die, 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 die! That is as clear as day. Human population is vastly expanded because of free trade. And if freedom dies, people die by the hundreds of millions. By the hundreds of millions. I don't even just mean those who are killed by the state, although that is in the hundreds of millions, but people in Venezuela are not being directly killed by the state. They're not being shot and shoveled into mass graves. But you see where it's going, right? And so, if somebody's not a stamp collector, if they dislike stamp collecting or model railroads, nobody dies. But if people are dead set against freedom, if people are passionately and steadfastly and committedly advocating for endless violations of the non-aggression principle, holy shit. Hundreds of millions of people are going to fucking die. This is what I need libertarians to wake up and say in the morning, spray painted on the ceiling over your bed. If I fail freedom, hundreds of millions of people die. Oh, what if there was a ticking bomb and you had to torture someone to get the information out of them? Guess what? That is exactly the situation that we are in. If you know about freedom and you don't, balls to the wall, get behind freedom, the blood is on your hands. Leftists gonna left. You release the tiger into the daycare, the blood is not on the tiger's claws, but on your pinky fingers. Asshole. Leftists are gonna left. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. They tend to be less intelligent. They tend to be traumatized. They tend to be mentally ill. They tend to be prone to anxiety and depression and inchoate rage. They're gonna do what they're gonna do. They're not gonna stop. And until libertarians get the stakes of what is at hand, the lives of hundreds of millions of human beings rest on the defense of freedom, on the defense of property, on the defense of trade, on the defense of voluntary interactions. You are a superhero. If you know these principles, if you understand these principles, and libertarians do. And libertarians even say the stakes are enormously high. Yes, it's true. Hundreds of millions of lives rest on whether freedom can be sustained and achieved and maintained and blah, blah, blah. It's like, wow, you really better live your life passionately according to these values then and choose your relationships accordingly. Oh, no! No, I'm just saying that because, it sounds dramatic. I mean, you don't expect the actor who plays Superman to actually jump off a building in real life, do you? It's just made up noise. It's nonsense. It's fun things we say, I like feeling important. I don't want to actually really live like it is important because that would be unsettling for me, you see. Apparently, a little bit of social discomfort, even a lot of social discomfort, is far more preferable to me than standing watching the deaths of hundreds of millions of human beings, knowing that the blood's on my hands. See that? I'm fine with the second, but confronting people with their own immorality and choosing my relationships accordingly, that's uncomfortable. The death of hundreds of millions of people, I think I could live with that. Can you? Can you? Because it will be on you. It will be on you. I can't. I can't live with it. I can't. As I've always said, knowledge is responsibility. If you know the Heimlich maneuver and someone's choking on a fishbone and you don't do anything because you're having a really great profiterole and you don't want to interrupt the taste flow, you're a very, very bad person. And we know, we who love freedom, liberty, property, responsibility, self-ownership, the non-aggression principle, we know the Heimlich maneuver that saves hundreds of millions of lives. Those lives are only around because people before our time established these principles which have allowed. See, freedom has summoned hundreds of millions of people into existence who otherwise wouldn't be here. They would have died at birth. They would have died shortly after birth. Disease or famine, war. Or their parents would have said, oh no, we can't afford to feed more children. You see, we don't have enough food, so we're not having any more kids. This is the great psych. See, once your ideology has summoned billions of people into existence who otherwise wouldn't be here, you kind of owe it to them to keep them alive, you see. You kidnap someone, you've got to keep them alive. If your ideology is the only reason why billions of people in the world are now alive, you owe it to them to defend that ideology that keeps them alive. What a psych that is. What a psych that is. What a psych that is. Well, I'm really glad that you all listened to me about freedom. Now, billions of you alive who wouldn't otherwise be alive. Okay, can you continue to defend that freedom so that we can stay living? No! No, really. I guess I'm just going to put myself in the mindset of a Roman gladiator spectator and just watch the giant lions and tigers of central planning, price disruption, totalitarianism, creeping socialism rend you all limb from limb. Bag of otter noses, please, for me. Lovely. Just lovely. Oh, what a spectacle. You understand, this is libertarian sadism at its finest. Spread the ideals of freedom, which summon billions of people to life, and then betray those principles of freedom and watch them die. Welcome to existence. I'm afraid it's going to be rather brief and unpleasant, but I guess I enjoy the spectacle. It would have been better for them not to be born. Right? It would have been better for them not to be born. Once your ideology brings people to life, they're your responsibility. You own those lives. Freedom fighters own the lives that freedom has created. And if they die because you didn't defend freedom, that's on you. This is what I don't understand, why people don't understand this. And I take full ownership for it, which is why I keep explaining it. Because I'm like standing out there in the desert in the middle of summer saying, wow, it's hot and bright. People are saying, what? I don't know what you're talking about. It's hot and bright. Okay, maybe not today. Today a meter of snow fell on the Sahara. But it's hot and bright. People are saying, I don't know what you're talking about. And I say, well, the reason you have a big sheik's hat on and the reason you have your sunglasses on is because it's hot and bright. People say, it'd be ridiculous. It's not hot and bright. I say, okay, well, let me take your sunglasses off. No! Don't do that. Whatever you do. Don't take off my sunglasses. Well, you just said it wasn't bright. Doesn't matter. I know it's not bright, but I want you to take off my sunglasses. It's not going to be the fault of the leftists. When people start dying from a lack of freedom. It's not. The leftists are the tigers. We're the ones not building the barricades. So all the libertarians, well, Donald Trump, compromiser. He appointed someone or more than one person from Goldman Sachs. He eats at McDonald's. Well, I know some libertarians like that. Okay. You got a better plan, asshole? No? Then get in line. Because I am not going down with the blood of countless people on my hands. I may not win, but there's no honor in the victory and no dishonor in the loss. The only honor is in the fight and the commitment. And when I say this shit matters, when I say freedom matters, and peace matters, and voluntarism matters, I don't just say it like it looks cool on a t-shirt. Oh, freedom matters. Cool story, brother. I say it matters because it really, really, really matters. And if you can't ditch socialists from your life, you don't get it at all. And you're worse than the socialists. Because they're going to do what they're going to do. You have the knowledge. And the knowledge gives you the choice. And the choice gives you the responsibility. And you let the tiger into the schoolyard. I'm not looking at the tiger. I'm looking at you. So that's the lay of the land. How to communicate it to people with an IQ of 84? Just say, will you give up your vote for food? That's what it's going to take. People with an IQ of 84 have questionable judgment about the long-term effects of socioeconomic policies. And at some point, that is probably the choice that's going to be presented to them. Someone is going to ride in and solve their problems, and he's going to take away their vote. And that's going to be their choice. They can have their vote and still, and they can just continue to vote for the charming sociopathic sophists who promise them everything and deliver nothing but misery and death. Or they can say, okay, well, clearly us driving the car doesn't really work. So I would focus more on the libertarians than the poor people. The poor people, listen, you know, people, sorry, just one more thing, and then I'll give you a chance to speak, and I appreciate this space here, but, you know, people think when I say, oh, they have an IQ of 84, I'm putting them down. No, I'm not putting them down at all. It's not their fault. It's the reality. Some people are tall and some people are short. And if you're the tall guy who can reach the food at the top of the tree, give it to the shorter people who can't. That's fair. You didn't earn being tall, right? You're just tall. I didn't earn being smart. I think I put it to good use. But what I see going on in the inner cities in America, and when I see what's going on in Venezuela and other places, where the IQ seems to be a standard deviation or so below, at least the European average, the white average. I mean, my heart it breaks. It breaks. It absolutely breaks. It's haunting. It haunts me. It haunts me. Like, I had to grit my teeth and read about Venezuela because it breaks my heart. You know, when I see sophists abusing the less intelligent, it's child abuse. It's horrible. It's heartbreaking. And these people deserve so much better. They can't do it for themselves, but they deserve the protection and the defense and the compassion of the intelligent. They are human beings. Humanity doesn't start at IQ 95. We're all people. They are human beings who deserve to live in a decent society. They do not know their own limitations usually, the Dunning-Kruger effect. And there seems to be a bottomless market for the less intelligent to be told that they're more intelligent than they are. I understand that. I do. But the real compassion, the real care, comes from really wanting to help these people, and denying the reality of where they are in the bell curve doesn't help them. If you're a doctor and you say, I'm going to treat all ethnicities the same, you're actually guilty of malpractice, because they're not the same. Treating everyone the same when they're not is anti-rational, anti-scientific, and fundamentally uncaring, hostile. And we see this uncaringness of the left. And it's mirrored by the uncaringness of the libertarians. The left doesn't give a shit about the Venezuelans. They only care about using the levers of their ideology to ratchet themselves into more and more power over a worse and worse world. But do the libertarians care about the Venezuelans? I see the same hollow-hearted uncaring from both sides, myself. Because if the libertarians really cared, they would go all in. Now, the left goes all in, but they don't care about the results. They just want power. But if the libertarians really cared, or even cared a little bit, they'd go all in. And they'd say, well, my brother-in-law, the socialist, maybe I can just tell him to fuck off. That he's an evil scumbag next time we meet. Maybe. Maybe I can do it more delicately. Maybe I can tell him he dare not darken the door of my house again until and unless he gives up his murderous doctrine. Not a lot of Jews holding Seder for Nazis. And Nazism still has a lower death count than socialism and its end product communism. Maybe libertarians can show their caring by taking what they preach seriously. It is not a hobby. It is not a hobby to be a libertarian. It is the most essential doctrine the world will ever know. And we better start taking it damn well seriously. Because I'll tell you this, the left takes it seriously. If you're a libertarian, if you oppose the interests of the left, of the corrupt, of the evil, of the immoral, of the deceptive, of the sophists, they take that shit seriously and they will try to mess you up. Well, let's see what happens when the case elected understand it's a war of words and goes all in. So, can I make one other offer to you, my friend? Listen, man, is there anything that I can do to help you? Would money help you? Can I send you some money to give you some options where you are?
I wouldn't want that.
Don't be brave. Don't be like, really, if there's anything, this would be a great gift to me if I could do something to help.
Well, while I could use the money because I got stolen, I got mugged outside of my house and my phone got stolen. I wouldn't like to take it because I know I can get another phone.
No, I'm talking about, like, I don't know if you ever heard this call. We got a listener out of South Africa. Like, I mean, can we help get you out of the country?
Oh, I can't get out of Venezuela because
it's not a cash issue.
No, it's not a cash issue. It's a family issue, and my family, my mom, my aunts, my uncles, they all want me to graduate first, unless and
when does the graduation happen?
About 3 years from now. but I don't know if I'm gonna last 3 years in
Well,
Venezuela.
keep in touch. First of all, keep in touch about all of that. And if there is anything we can do, let us know. Secondly, how much did your phone cost?
Uh, like $100. It's dirt cheap, but don't worry
Okay.
about it.
No,
I can.
this is my pleasure. I mean, you
No, no,
can
no.
you
But
can
but I
you can
can.
give it to your
I
family.
can.
I'm going to send you the price of your phone because it sucks that you got it stolen. And it's selfish for me because I want more people who listen to this show to have access to the internet and listen to this show. So I just tell you that's what we're going to do. If you don't want to use it to buy the phone, give it to someone or use it for something else. But
Well, I
it's coming
guess
your way either.
I'll give it to my stepfather to help with the food in the house because it's been kind of like okay, uncomfortable for me to not being able to support even food. I mean, I
Yeah, no,
can't.
listen. Charity is a perfect free market opportunity. There's nothing that goes against either of our values. Me offering to help you because it gives me a pleasure and hope to do so. And I think you're a great guy. And it's not your fault. You're in Venezuela. That's just where you happen to be born.
Yeah, but
So let me help you with the good fortune I've had to not be born in Venezuela. That's all.
well, I'll accept it then. But
Good. Good. I appreciate that. And you, please never forget, we are an email away. If you need help, if there's anything we can do, an opportunity opens up, anything, let us know.
well, I think that opportunities might be coming sooner than later. I already have a way out of the country. The uncle I told you about that was in Sabine, that he told me about the how the Sabine spies on Venezuelan. He left to Colombia about 6 months ago, and he's doing pretty well in Colombia. He wants to leave to either the United States or Spain later, but I got a recent announcement from my college that they're gonna raise prices, and I paid, let's say, $12 last trimester, right? And now I'm gonna have to pay about $90
Wow.
this trimester. Jeez. So if that happens, my mom told me that I would have to put a pause on my studies, and if I put a pause on my studies, I'm gonna leave. I don't care if people think it's bad, and I know I'm gonna have a rough time. I've never left the country, but I know I'm gonna have a rough time without a degree in something. But I think that uh,
You don't, I mean, as far as the degree goes, I mean, any competent employer is going to know that you're mostly surrounded by idiots anyway, right?
yeah, and I'm also afraid that they're gonna automatically think that I'm an idiot because I'm from Venezuela, because that happens a lot. I mean, Venezuelans are pretty fucking stupid. There's no denying
Well,
it.
hopefully we can, you know, if there's an opportunity, hopefully you can get out and we can, I guess, lower the average a little more after you leave. But keep in touch if there's anything we can do. Seriously, don't let your life slide you by because you're afraid to ask for help. You heard me.
No,
I
but
ask for help every single time. Just about every single time I do a show, I'm like, donate at freedomainradio.com/donate. Ask for help, ask for help, ask for help. Don't try and do it all by yourself, especially at your age. So that's my suggestion. I will have to move on to the next caller. I really, really appreciate the call.
yeah.
And let us know if you have any trouble getting the cash. And I wish you the very best. I hope that you'll stay in touch.
Well, thank you for listening, Stefan.
My pleasure.